Commander Tejo Park stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony and watched the blue-green planet grow larger on the main screen. This was his third visit to Velthera Prime in 2 years. Each time, the massive underwater cities amazed him. The Veltharians had built these cities over thousands of years, long before humans ever left Earth. "Sir, we're getting their welcome message," said Lieutenant So-Jin Kim from her station. She was the ship's communication officer and spoke 7 alien languages. The Veltharian words came through the speakers in their wet, gurgling sounds. "They say we can dock at Platform 7, So-Jin translated. "Ambassador Velthara will meet us in 1 hour. Tejo nodded. He had met Velthara many times before. The Veltharian diplomat was polite but always seemed to look down on humans. Velthara often called human technology cute or simple. Sometimes Tejo wondered if the Veltharians truly wanted peace or just enjoyed feeling superior. Captain Dongwoo Lee walked up beside him. "Ready for another round of talks about trade routes?" Dongwoo asked with a tired smile. These meetings always took hours. The Veltharians loved to discuss every tiny detail multiple times. "At least the food is good," Tejo replied. The Veltharians made amazing dishes from sea plants and fish. Their chefs could prepare meals that tasted like nothing humans had ever experienced. The ship docked smoothly at the floating platform. Through the windows, Tejo could see Veltharian workers moving around. They looked like giant squids but walked on land using special suits filled with water. Their skin changed colors when they talked, flashing blue and green patterns. Science Officer Hyejin Choi was already preparing her equipment. She studied alien cultures and always brought cameras and recording devices to document everything. "I hope they'll let me visit the deep city levels today," she said excitedly. "I've been requesting access for months." Marine biologist Jae Sung Yang overheard her. "I'd love to see their breeding pools," he added. "Their reproduction cycle is fascinating. They lay eggs in special chambers 2 miles underwater." The airlock opened and Ambassador Velthara floated in. The Veltharian wore a clear water suit that covered most of its body. Its tentacles moved in graceful patterns as it spoke. "Welcome back, little humans," Velthara said in perfect English. Its voice came through a translator device. "I trust your journey was not too difficult for your simple ships." Tejo kept his expression neutral. This was how Velthara always greeted them. "Thank you for having us again, Ambassador. We're honored to visit your beautiful world." "Of course you are," Velthara replied. "Come, we have much to discuss about your expansion efforts." They followed Velthara through the station corridors. The walls were transparent, showing the ocean below. Huge Veltharian cities stretched as far as the eye could see. Millions of the aliens swam between tall towers and floating gardens. "Your people have built something incredible here," said Dr. Minho Yoon, the team's engineer. He always studied alien construction methods. "These cities must have taken centuries to build." "Millennia," Velthara corrected. "We began construction when your species was still climbing trees and eating insects. We are an ancient and wise people. We understand the galaxy in ways you cannot." They entered a large meeting room filled with water. Special chairs allowed the humans to sit while staying dry. Velthara floated in the center, surrounded by other Veltharian officials. "Now then," Velthara began, "let us discuss your request for expanded trade routes. You wish to establish colonies in the Kappa sector, yes?" "That's correct," Tejo replied. "The planets there are perfect for human agriculture. We could provide food for this entire region of space." Velthara's skin flashed red briefly. "Agriculture? Yes, you humans do love to dig in dirt and plant seeds. Very primitive. But harmless, I suppose." One of the other Veltharians spoke in their language. Velthara listened and replied before turning back to the humans. "My advisor reminds me that humans reproduce very quickly. Your colonies tend to grow large in short time periods. This concerns us. We only want to farm and trade," So-Jin said carefully. She had become the team's unofficial diplomat. "Humans have never started wars with any species we've met." "Of course not," Velthara laughed, a sound like bubbles popping. "You are far too young and weak for war, but even weak species can become problematic if they spread too quickly." Tejo felt a cold chill but kept his voice steady. "Are you suggesting we're a threat to anyone?" "Oh, no, Velthara waved a tentacle dismissively. "You misunderstand. We simply believe young species should grow slowly, with guidance from their elders. We have seen many species like yours come and go over the millennia." "Come and go?" Hyejin asked quietly. "Species that expand too quickly often face unfortunate accidents," another Veltharian explained. "Pirates attack their ships. Plagues strike their colonies. Equipment failures cause life support to stop working. The galaxy can be very dangerous for those who do not have proper protection. The room became very quiet. Tejo realized this was not really a negotiation. It was a warning, maybe even a threat. "We appreciate your concern for our safety," Tejo said slowly. "Perhaps we should discuss this more with our government before making any decisions." "Wise," Velthera agreed. "Young species should always ask their elders before making important choices. We will give you time to reconsider your expansion plans." The meeting ended shortly after. As they walked back to their ship, the human team stayed quiet. Everyone felt the tension, but nobody wanted to speak openly about it. Back on the Harmony, Captain Dongwu gathered them in the conference room. "Did anyone else get the feeling we were just threatened?" he asked. "Definitely," Jae-sung replied. "That bit about unfortunate accidents was not subtle." So-jin looked worried. "Do you think they would actually attack human colonies?" "I don't know," Tejo said. "But we need to report this conversation to Earth immediately. Something about their attitude has changed." As the Harmony left Velthara Prime, none of the humans noticed the small Veltharian ships following them at a distance. In the deep cities below, Veltharian military leaders were already making plans. They had decided that humans were becoming too bold, too confident. It was time to teach them their proper place in the galaxy. The Veltharians had done this before with other young species. It always worked. They had no idea what they were about to unleash. Engineer Min Ho-yoon was fixing a water recycling system when the emergency alarm started screaming. He dropped his tools and ran to the communication center of New Sol Colony. The main screen showed static where Earth's signal should be. "What's happening?" Minho asked the communication officer. "Unknown ships just jumped into our system," the officer replied, his hands shaking as he worked the controls. "They're not responding to our calls." Minho looked at the sensor readings. 12 large ships had appeared near the outer planets. Their design looked familiar. "Those are Veltharian vessels," he said quietly. The colony's director, Ms. Hae-Won-Yu, rushed into the room. "Are they here for trade negotiations?" she asked hopefully. Before anyone could answer, the lead Veltharian ship sent a message. The translator worked slowly, turning their gurgling language into words that made Minho's blood freeze. "Attention, human infestation. You have 30 minutes to prepare for cleansing. Resistance will only cause additional suffering." "Cleansing?" Hae-Won whispered. "What do they mean?" Minho was already running toward the emergency broadcast system. His fingers flew over the controls as he tried to send a message to Earth. "This is New Sol Colony. We are under attack by Veltharian forces. They are not negotiating. Repeat, this is not a diplomatic mission." The transmission cut off as something hit the communication array. Through the windows, Minho could see Veltharian fighters diving toward the agricultural sectors. Bright energy beams turned the wheat fields into burning wasteland. "Everyone to the emergency shelters," Hae-Won ordered over the colony-wide speaker system. "This is not a drill. All civilians report to the emergency shelters immediately." Minho grabbed his emergency kit and ran toward Shelter 7, where his wife and daughter were supposed to go. The streets filled with panicking colonists. Parents carried crying children while elderly people struggled to keep up. The Veltharian attack was not random. They hit the power plant first, cutting electricity to most of the colony. Then they targeted the communication towers, making sure no one could call for help. Finally, they began destroying the residential areas. But this was not normal warfare. The Veltharians were not trying to capture the colony or demand surrender. They were systematically killing every human they could find. Minho saw a family trying to reach Shelter 4. A Veltharian fighter swooped down and fired directly at them. The energy beam vaporized the parents instantly. Their young son, maybe 6 years old, stood alone in the street crying. "Come here," Minho shouted, running toward the boy. He scooped up the child and carried him toward the nearest shelter. Inside Shelter 7, Minho found his wife Yoon-young and their 8-year-old daughter Bo-ram. Yoon-young was trying to calm the other families while Bo-ram hugged her stuffed animal tightly. "Daddy, why are the fish people being mean?" Bo-ram asked innocently. Minho did not know how to answer. Through the shelter's thick walls, they could hear explosions and screaming. The Veltharians were going building by building, making sure no humans survived. The shelter's emergency supplies included food for 2 weeks and a small medical station. Dr. Kyung-soo Nam, the colony's main doctor, was treating injured people who had made it inside. How many shelters are still reporting? HFY asked the emergency coordinator. Only 3 out of 12, came the terrible answer. Shelters 1, 5, 8, and 11 have gone silent. We think Shelter 4 took a direct hit. Hours passed. The sounds outside grew quieter, which somehow felt worse than the explosions. It meant the Veltharians were finishing their work. On the second day, they heard voices outside the shelter. But these were not human voices. The Veltharians were checking each building, making sure they had not missed anyone. Stay absolutely quiet, Dr. Nam whispered to the children. Do not make any sound. 8-year-old Boram pressed her face against her mother's shoulder. She understood that making noise meant death. The voices got closer. Heavy footsteps walked around the shelter entrance. Something scratched at the door like claws testing its strength. Then the voices moved away. For 6 more days, the survivors waited in the dark shelter. The food ran low. The air recycling system began to fail. Some of the injured people died despite Dr. Nam's efforts. On the 7th day, they heard different sounds. Human voices. Engines that sounded like Earth ships. This is Admiral Kyung-Soo Nam of the Earth Defense Fleet, a voice called through the shelter's emergency speaker. Any survivors, please respond. HFY activated the response signal. This is New Seoul Emergency Shelter 7. We have 43 survivors. Stand by for rescue, the Admiral replied. We're cutting through the door now. When the shelter door opened, bright sunlight hurt their eyes. Sergeant Woo Jin Han was the first person they saw. His face was hard and angry in a way that scared even the adults. Are there other survivors? Sergeant Han asked immediately. We don't know, HFY replied. We lost contact with most shelters days ago. Sergeant Han spoke into his radio. Shelter 7 has 43 survivors. Continue searching for others. As they walked outside, the survivors saw what had happened to their home. New Seoul Colony was completely destroyed. Every building had been burned or blown apart. The beautiful farms were poisonous wastelands. Bodies lay everywhere. But the worst part was the evidence of what the Veltharians had done to people they captured alive. Dr. Nam found torture chambers where humans had been used for experiments. Children's toys lay scattered around areas where families had been killed slowly. Xenobiologist Yoon Young Kang was part of the rescue team. She documented everything with scientific precision, but tears ran down her face as she worked. They didn't just want to kill us, she told Admiral Nam. They wanted to hurt us as much as possible first. The rescue team searched for 3 days. Boram and her parents were the only family to survive completely intact. Everyone else had lost someone. When they finally left New Seoul, Boram looked back at the burning ruins of her home. Will the fish people come to hurt us again? She asked her father. Minho did not know what to say. But Admiral Nam heard the question. No, little one, the Admiral said quietly. They will never hurt anyone again. The survivors were taken to Earth's newest military station. As their ship traveled through space, they passed dozens of Earth Defense Fleet vessels heading toward Veltharian space. These were not exploration ships or diplomatic vessels. These were warships, and they carried weapons that most humans had never seen before. Boram fell asleep against her mother's shoulder, still holding her stuffed animal. She did not understand yet that she had witnessed the beginning of the most complete act of revenge in galactic history. The Veltharians had made a simple mistake. They thought humans were weak because humans had always chosen peace. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. President Sang-Woo Lim stood before the United Earth Assembly with a face carved from stone. Behind him, the massive screen showed images from New Seoul Colony, burned homes, dead children, torture chambers. The assembly hall was completely silent. 3,000 representatives from every nation on Earth stared at the evidence of what the Veltharians had done. 2.3 million civilians, President Lim said slowly. Men, women, children, and elderly people who had never held weapons, who grew food and built schools and painted pictures, all dead. He paused and looked directly into the main camera that broadcast to every human world. The Veltharians did not attack our military. They did not demand surrender. They did not want our territory or our resources. They killed our people because they enjoyed it, because they saw us as insects to be stepped on. General Myung Chae stood up from her seat. She was the head of Earth's Military Research Division. Most people did not know what her department actually did. Mr. President, she said formally, I request permission to activate all classified defense protocols. Granted, President Lim replied immediately. The assembly representatives looked confused. They did not know what classified defense protocols meant. General Che walked to the podium. For the past 20 years, humanity has been preparing for the possibility of existential war. Not trade disputes or territorial conflicts, but total war where our species' survival is at stake. She pressed a button and the screen changed. It now showed technical drawings of weapons and ships that looked like nothing the public had ever seen. Project Blackout began 15 years ago under the direction of weapons engineer Junho Ryu. The project developed tools for ending civilizations. The representatives began to murmur nervously. These weapons looked terrifying even in simple drawings. The fusion lance system, General Che continued, designed by physicist Da-Hai Moon, can crack planets open like eggs. The Ghost Fleet protocol allows us to field unmanned warships controlled by artificial intelligence. And the Scorched Earth Directive provides complete sterilization of enemy worlds. President Lim stepped forward again. The Galactic Federation will demand we show restraint. They will call for negotiations and sanctions. They will say we should respond proportionally. His voice grew cold and hard, but they were not the ones who found children's bodies in Veltharian torture chambers. They did not see the evidence of experiments performed on living humans. They did not hear the final screams from New Sol. The president looked directly at the camera again. Every Veltharian world will burn. Every Veltharian ship will be destroyed. Every member of their species will die. We will make them extinct, the assembly voted. The result was unanimous. Within hours, Admiral Siak-Jin Bayek received orders to deploy the entire Ghost Fleet. These were ships that had been built in secret military stations hidden throughout human space. Ships that used technology the Galactic Federation had never seen. In the weapons laboratories, Junho Ryu worked with his team to prepare the planet-cracking devices. They had tested these weapons on uninhabited worlds but never used them in war. "Are we really going to do this?" asked his assistant, Dr. Yujin Go. "They killed our children," Junho replied quietly. "Yes, we are really going to do this." Meanwhile, Captain Hyun-Woo Shin prepared his strike team for the first attack. His target was a small Veltharian research station in the outer system. It was not militarily important, but it would send a message. The strike team's ships were painted pure black and carried no identification marks. They had special engines that made almost no sensor signature. The Veltharians would not see them coming until it was too late. As Captain Shin's ships approached the research station, he opened communications with his team. "Remember," he said, "this is not a normal military operation. We are not taking prisoners. We are not accepting surrender. We are ending a species that made the mistake of murdering human children." The research station had 12 Veltharians working inside. They were scientists studying star formation patterns. They had nothing to do with the attack on New Sol. Captain Shin's ships attacked without warning. The first missile destroyed the station's communication array. The second missile breached the main hull. The third missile contained a special gas that was instantly lethal to Veltharian biology. The attack lasted less than 5 minutes. When it was over, the research station was a drifting wreck with no survivors. But this was just the beginning. Across human space, more black ships launched from hidden bases. Admiral Bayek's Ghost Fleet numbered over 200 vessels, each one carrying weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The Veltharians had spent weeks celebrating their successful cleansing of New Sol. They believed they had taught humans their proper place in the galaxy. They expected humans to retreat and accept their loss. When the first reports came in about the destroyed research station, Veltharian military leaders were not worried. Probably pirates or equipment failure. When the second report came in about an attacked trade convoy, they began to pay attention. When the third, fourth, and fifth reports arrived simultaneously, they realized something was very wrong. Ambassador Velthara tried to contact Earth to demand an explanation. But Earth was no longer accepting Veltharian communications. In the deep cities of Velthara Prime, military leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. They still did not understand what they had unleashed. "Surely the humans cannot have many ships," one general said confidently. "They are a young species with limited resources. We should send a battle fleet to their remaining colonies," another suggested. "They will surrender when they see our strength." They had no idea that humanity had been building warships in secret for decades. They did not know about the weapons that could destroy planets. They did not understand that humans had never shown their true military power to anyone. They thought they were dealing with the same peaceful, diplomatic humans they had always known. They were about to meet a very different humanity. A humanity that had been pushed beyond every limit of restraint and mercy. Humanity that had decided the Veltharians needed to be completely and permanently removed from the galaxy. The war they had started by murdering children was about to become the most one-sided slaughter in galactic history. Fleet Admiral Jong Ho Sim watched from his command ship as 7 human fleets positioned themselves around 7 Veltharian star systems. Each fleet carried enough firepower to end entire civilizations. All fleets report ready for synchronized assault, his communication officer announced. Admiral Sim had fought in 3 previous wars, but never anything like this. This was not about territory or resources. This was about completely erasing a species from existence. Begin Operation Final Answer, he ordered. At Velthara Prime, Commander Haewon Yu led the first wave of orbital bombardment ships. The planet below was covered in beautiful underwater cities that had taken thousands of years to build. Target all population centers, Commander Yu ordered her gunners. Leave nothing intact. The first fusion missiles struck the ocean surface and kept burning all the way to the sea floor. The water itself began to boil as temperatures reached levels that no life could survive. Veltharian civilians tried to evacuate their deep cities, but human ships were waiting at every escape route. Space Commander Jae-wook Choi had positioned his fighters to intercept any vessel trying to leave the atmosphere. "Sir, we're detecting thousands of civilian transports trying to escape," one of his pilots reported. "Destroy them all," Commander Choi replied without emotion. "Every single one." The sky above Velthara Prime filled with burning ships. Civilian transports, medical vessels, school ships carrying Veltharian children. None were spared. Dr. Shung-ho Park activated his atmospheric processors from orbit. These machines were originally designed to make planets suitable for human life. Now they were being used to make planets uninhabitable for anyone. The processors released clouds of toxic gas that reacted with Veltharian biology. Any Veltharian who breathed the air would die within minutes. But the process was designed to be slow enough that they would suffer first. On Velthara Secundus, engineer Soo-young Kim prepared her tectonic weapons. These devices could cause earthquakes and volcanic eruptions by sending energy deep into a planet's core. Charging tectonic disruptors, she announced to her team. Target the main continental plates. The planet began to shake as massive earthquakes tore apart the ocean floor. Underwater cities that had survived for millennia collapsed in minutes. Volcanic vents opened and filled the oceans with molten rock. Captain Narration led her atmospheric fighters in precision strikes against any remaining Veltharian structures. Her job was to make sure nothing was left that could shelter survivors. "I'm seeing some kind of emergency bunker," one of her pilots reported. "Deep underwater, protected by heavy armor." "Use the thermal charges," Captain Sun ordered. "Melt the armor and boil everything inside." The Veltharians inside the bunker had been confident their ancient fortress could protect them. They had built it to withstand any known weapon, but human thermal charges created temperatures hot enough to turn metal into gas. The screams from inside the bunker lasted for several minutes before going silent. At Velthara Tertius, the humans tried a different approach. Admiral Mi-young Che wanted to test new weapons that could kill all life on a planet while leaving the structures intact. "Deploy the biological warfare units," she ordered. The weapons released engineered viruses that were specifically designed to target Veltharian DNA. The viruses spread through the water and air, finding every living Veltharian on the planet. The disease was extremely painful and took several days to kill its victims. Admiral Che monitored the progress and took notes for future use against other species. On Velthara Quartus, humans tested their newest planet-cracking weapons. Physicist Dae-hai Moon had designed fusion devices that could split a world in half. Targeting the planetary core, she reported from her research vessel. Estimated time to complete destruction, 47 minutes. The planet began to glow from within as the fusion reaction spread through its molten center. Eventually, Velthara Quartus exploded like a small star, sending pieces of rock flying through space. Any Veltharians who had been hiding in deep bunkers or space stations were caught in the explosion. There was nowhere to run from a weapon that destroyed entire worlds. Throughout all 7 systems, the pattern was the same. Humans used different methods to kill every Veltharian they could find, but the goal was always complete extinction. Some Veltharians tried to surrender. They sent desperate messages offering to become slaves or pay any price for mercy. The humans ignored all surrender attempts. Ambassador Velthera, who had once called humans little and cute, sent a final transmission from a hidden bunker on an asteroid. "Please," the message said. "We understand now that we made a mistake. We will leave this galaxy forever. We will never bother humans again. Please show mercy." The transmission was received by Captain Hyunwoo Shin, who was searching for the last Veltharian survivors. "Did you show mercy to the children on New Sol?" he replied. Then he fired a missile at the asteroid. The Galactic Federation sent urgent messages demanding that humans stop their attacks. Representatives from dozens of species begged Earth to accept Veltharian surrender. President Sang-woo Lim sent a single response to all their messages. The Veltharians wanted to see what humans do when pushed beyond all limits. Now they know. Other alien species watched in horror as an entire civilization was methodically destroyed. The Zephyrian Council had been planning their own expansion into human territory. They quietly canceled those plans. The Croton Empire had been considering demanding tribute from human colonies. They decided to send tribute to humans instead. The Ethereal Collective had once dismissed humans as primitive warmongers. They sent formal apologies for their past insults. After 6 days of continuous bombardment, the Veltharian species was extinct. Not a single individual remained alive anywhere in the galaxy. Their worlds were either destroyed completely or turned into poisonous wastelands where nothing could survive. Admiral Sim sent his final report to Earth. All Veltharian systems secured. 0 survivors detected. 0 infrastructure remaining intact. Mission accomplished. The galaxy had learned a simple lesson. Humans were peaceful by choice, not by inability. And when that choice was taken away by the murder of human children, humans became something far more terrifying than any other species had imagined. The age of treating humanity as harmless newcomers was over. From now on, other species would remember what happened to the last ones who had angered humans. They had been burned to ash, and their ashes had been scattered to the void. 6 months after the last Veltharian died, Ambassador Jinwoo Kang walked into the Galactic Federation Assembly Hall. The massive chamber was designed to hold representatives from over 200 different species. Today, it was completely silent. Every alien diplomat stared at Jinwoo as he moved to the human-speaking platform. Some looked frightened. Others looked angry. All of them looked different than they had before the war. Before, humans had been seen as interesting newcomers who asked polite questions and offered beneficial trade deals. Now humans were the species that had completely erased another civilization from existence. "Honored representatives," Jinwoo began calmly, "I am here to address questions about recent human military actions." The Zephyrian representative stood up immediately. His species looked like tall, thin birds with colorful feathers. "You murdered an entire species," he said accusingly. "Billions of innocent civilians." Jinwoo's expression did not change. The Veltharians murdered 2.3 million human civilians, including children. They tortured prisoners for entertainment. They announced their intention to cleanse all human colonies. But extinction? The Croton ambassador interrupted. The Crotons were large bear-like creatures. Complete extinction is barbaric. Yes, Jinwoo agreed quietly. It is barbaric. We offered the Veltharians trade, friendship, and peaceful coexistence. They chose barbarism instead. We gave them exactly what they gave us. The Ethereal Collective's representative floated forward. The Ethereals were energy beings who rarely spoke directly to physical species. Your response was disproportionate. You could have demanded reparations or restricted their territory, or could we? Jinwoo cut them off. The Veltharians specifically targeted human children for torture and experimentation. They made it clear that they viewed humans as pests to be eliminated. What proportionate response exists for attempted genocide? The chamber fell silent again. Many species had experienced conflicts with neighbors, but none had ever faced total extinction as a goal. The Aquarian delegate raised a tentacle. His species lived underwater like the Veltharians had. What guarantee do we have that humans will not decide we are also problematic? Jinwoo looked directly at the Aquarian. Are you planning to torture human children? Of course not. Then you have nothing to fear from humanity. President Sang-Woo Lim's voice came through the hall's communication system from Earth. The human government wishes to make our position clear to all species. We offered the Veltharians the same friendship we offer everyone. They chose to respond with genocide. The screens around the chamber lit up, showing images from New Sol Colony. Dead children. Burned homes. Torture chambers. We did not start this war, President Lim continued, but we finished it completely. Let this be a lesson to any species considering harming human civilians. We will not negotiate with those who target our families. We will not show mercy to those who torture our children. We will erase them from existence. Several alien representatives began arguing loudly. Some demanded that humans be expelled from the Federation. Others called for economic sanctions. A few species threatened to form a military alliance against humanity. Jinwoo waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. Any species that wishes to declare war on humanity is welcome to try, he said calmly. You have seen what we do to our enemies. You have seen that our peaceful nature is a choice, not a weakness. The hall became quiet again. No one wanted to be the next species to test human military capabilities. General Yeon Hee-seo had been listening from the human observation area. She stood up and walked to the platform. I am General SEO of the Human Defense Corps, she announced. Our new military organization will patrol all major trade routes to ensure the safety of human ships and civilians. She activated a holographic display showing human warships positioned throughout the galaxy. These vessels carry the same weapons that destroyed the Veltharian worlds. They have orders to respond immediately to any threat against human citizens. The ships were painted black with simple white text. Remember New Sol. Furthermore, General Seo continued, humanity is establishing permanent military bases in 12 strategic systems. These bases will monitor all local military activity and respond to potential threats before they can harm civilians. This announcement caused more arguing among the alien representatives. Many species objected to human military expansion. You are becoming conquerors, the Zephyrian delegate accused. No, Jinwoo replied. We are becoming survivors. The Veltharians taught us that some species view peaceful behavior as an invitation to commit genocide. We will not make that mistake again. The Federation's Supreme Chancellor, an ancient being called Mordak, finally spoke. His species was older than most others in the galaxy. Humans, he said slowly, your actions have changed the balance of power in this galaxy. Many species now fear you. Good, President Lim's voice replied from Earth. Fear will keep them from murdering our children. Chancellor Mordak was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from this Federation now? The same thing we always wanted, Jinwoo answered. Trade, friendship, and peaceful coexistence. But now everyone understands the price of threatening human civilians. Over the following months, the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Several species that had been planning aggressive expansions quietly canceled their military programs. Others sent tribute gifts to human colonies hoping to show friendship. The Croton Empire offered exclusive trade deals. The Zephyrian Council sent cultural exchange students. Even species that had never contacted humans before began sending diplomatic messages. Bo-Ram Song, now 9 years old, lived on Earth with her parents. She was one of the 43 survivors from New Sol Colony. Sometimes she had nightmares about the Veltharians, but her father always reminded her that the fish people could never hurt anyone again. Are you sure, Daddy? She would ask. Completely sure, Minho would reply. They don't exist anymore. Bo-Ram did not fully understand what that meant, but she felt safe. In schools across human space, children learned a new lesson about galactic history. They learned about the species called Veltharians who had once threatened humanity. What happened to them? The children would ask. They made humans angry, their teachers would reply, so humans made them extinct. The lesson was simple but effective. Throughout the galaxy, other species told similar stories to their own children. Stories about the peaceful humans who became the most feared military force in known space when their families were threatened. The Veltharians had wanted to teach humans their place in the galaxy. They had succeeded, but not in the way they intended. Humanity's place was now at the top. They were the species that others feared to anger. They were the civilization that had proven they could and would erase their enemies completely. And when other species asked what had happened to the last aliens who had angered humans, the answer was always the same: we burned their worlds to ash.